All right, today we're going to conduct a special kind of visual investigation. We're looking at a threat that honestly operates right out in plain sight. You could almost call it a digital ghost, one that's been built to haunt our totally interconnected world.
Yeah, just think about that for a second. This one question, and it's pulled directly from global security reports, it really gets to the heart of the new face of modern extremism. This isn't about hiding in the shadows anymore. It's about mastering the algorithm.
So, let's dive right in. This isn't a fight happening on some remote battlefield. No, this is a war for our attention, and it's happening right on our screens. And the primary target? It's the youth of the European Union.
So that brings up a huge question, right? How are groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda even doing this? How are they managing to adapt their message for a generation that, grew up online? Well, it turns out they've completely rewritten the playbook. And what's so fascinating here is the shift away from that old school propaganda. We're not talking about those grainy videos or really dense Arabic documents anymore. Now it's all slick, modern marketing. We're seeing Hollywood-quality HD videos, often in English and French, and they're designed to look and feel exactly like the content that young people are already watching every single day.
And this is the core of their pitch. They're targeting young people who might be going through an identity crisis, kids who feel lost or pushed to the margins. And they don't sell a war, they sell a story. They manage to reframe terror as this high-stakes quest for glory, and they're preying on that fundamental human desire for purpose.
And here's where it gets truly disturbing. They're turning murder into a game. It's called gamification. By modeling their recruitment videos and even their missions on games like Grand Theft Auto, they systematically desensitize these recruits. They're framing horrific acts of violence as just another way to level up, to increase your score.
And the result of all this? It's chillingly effective. 1 in every 5 terrorist suspects that get apprehended in the West is now under the age of 18. Think about that. This isn't some fringe problem anymore. This is a generational crisis.
See, I have to wonder, how is this whole recruitment engine even powered? Well, that leads us to the shadow infrastructure. It's this hidden technological and financial network that is, frankly, almost impossible to dismantle.
First off, they've pretty much abandoned traditional banking entirely. All the money they get from criminal activities, we're talking drug smuggling, kidnapping, it all gets funneled into untraceable crypto assets like Bitcoin. What this does is it creates an invisible financial system, a ghost economy that operates completely outside the view of governments and banks. And to host all their propaganda, they're not using the regular internet. They're on something called the decentralized web, or D-Web. Just think of it like a network that has no center. There's no single server for authorities to go and shut down, which makes it incredibly resilient. And really, this decentralized structure is their greatest strength. It's why, even when we see social media accounts deleted or videos taken down, the core network just stays active. It's like these deep roots that just keep spreading underground, and they always find a new way to pop up to the surface.
So we've seen how this sophisticated online machine works, but what does it actually produce in the real world? Well, that's how we get from clicks to casualties.
The ultimate product of this whole digital pipeline is what we call the lone wolf. It's an individual who's been radicalized entirely online, and they operate without any direct orders. And that right there is what makes them the most unpredictable threat that Western nations are facing today.
And make no mistake, they are shockingly effective. Just look at this number. Over the last 5 years, 93% of all terrorist attacks in the West have been carried out by these lone actors. They have become the foot soldiers of this new digital war.
This chart right here, it really shows the terrifying reality of this strategy. So, even though the physical center of terrorism is in Africa's Sahel region, its digital reach is causing a massive 63% spike in violence across Europe. The battlefield isn't geographic anymore. It's everywhere.
And all of this brings us to our final section, the prevention paradox. Because the fallout from these attacks, it tears at the very fabric of our society, and it reveals some really deep challenges in how we're trying to respond.
The constant threat of a lone wolf attack, it creates this climate of fear. We see it driving up rates of PTSD, of social distrust. It literally poisons communities from the inside out. And that fear, it also cripples economies. Foreign investment just plummets in countries that are seen as targets.
And you know what makes it worse? Our own defenses are being weakened by our internal divisions. Political fights and legal red tape between allied nations. They stop effective intelligence sharing. And this creates these shadow areas. gaps in our security that these borderless digital groups are perfectly designed to exploit.
And that leads us to a really profound and honestly a very unsettling final thought. As our governments increase online surveillance to try and stop this, are we accidentally isolating entire communities? I mean, does making everyone a potential suspect actually push vulnerable young people toward the very same radical voices that are promising them a sense of belonging? And if that's the case, how do we ever break this cycle?